So what we basically have now is we have our 0 line and our 2 line here. So the aim now is to basically blend the hair through this section the whole way around, not focusing on anything above it and not focusing on anything below it. Now, what you'll see a lot of barbers doing when they are fading is you'll see them fading all the way around the head on one step, all the way around the head on the other step, all the way around the head on the next step. But the better way to fade is something called panel fading. Now, what this basically is breaking the hair down into 4 sections. So you've got section 1, 2, 3, and then 4 around the other side. Now, the reason we do this is basically focusing on one panel at a time is a lot better and a lot more productive. And the reason for this is because the human brain can only focus on one exact thing in front of the eyes at once. Now, if you're cutting here and then moving straight onto this section, straight onto this section, you're forgetting the part that you've done before, you're forgetting where you're at. So if you just fade one section here and then go into this section, it's a lot easier for your brain to understand, a lot easier to react to what the hair's doing. Once you've got this section perfect, you know you've got that boxed off, you can go on to the next section. So this can be quite difficult to wrap your head around at the start, because you might think, I faded this section, how am I going to fade this section the same? But when you go through it and you get good at panel fading, it will work out a lot better for you at the end. Also, the different panels are faded slightly different, and that's another reason why we panel fade and we don't fade the whole way around. Sections 3 and sections 4 here can be a lot more difficult to fade. A lot of the time there's a bone through here which dents down. You can get a lot of divots in the head which create dark spots in the fade. So I like to separate all the sections and work on them completely different, because they're all going to be original and different to the other sections. So if we focus on a section at a time, the end result will be a lot better than just fading the whole way around. And also, the good thing with panel fading is you're not walking around the head the whole time. You get in the client's head in the position where you want it, you can keep him there, and then you can just focus and work on that section. And then when you go to the other side, you can tilt the client's head the other way instead of moving the head the whole time, moving around the head, changing your angle of your back and everything. So this is the way that we're going to go through all the fading. So just before we move on, I just want to break down panel fading a little bit more for you. So what I've done here, as we spoke about before, I've sectioned it into panel 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now, if we're breaking down all the different sections on the head, what we've got the apex at the top, we've got the crown at the back here, we've got the occipital bone here, we've got the nape, which is the bottom of the neck here, we've got the sides here, and we've got the temple here. Now, we don't need to worry about all that when we're fading. The main 2 things we need to worry about when we're fading is the occipital bone and the parietal ridge, and maybe a little bit focusing on the temple. But the 2 main things we want to focus on is how far the parietal ridge comes out. So the parietal ridge is basically what we just spoke about when we was creating our foundation, and I was saying feel the sides of the head and feel where the ridge curves. So the parietal ridge is basically this section here, which is where the top of the head meets the sides and you get that curvature along the head. Now, obviously, everyone's got a different head shape. Some people's parietal ridge is going to stick out a lot further than others. So when you are fading, you want to have a look at the parietal ridge before you start fading, and if the further it sticks out, the more of the flick you're going to need out from your clippers when you're fading, and more of that motion you're going to need, because if you go too into this when it's got a parietal ridge which sticks out really far, you're going to create a light shadow along the parietal ridge, which we don't want to create. And the other way, if they've got a parietal ridge that sticks in really far, you might want to take your fade a little bit flatter just to go along with that, but still keeping the shape square. Now, obviously, as we just spoke about, you've also got the occipital bone, which we really need to focus on. If they've got a really prominent occipital bone, you really want to manage this before you start your fade to where you're going to put your baseline. Now, where you start, in which panel you start your fade, doesn't really matter as long as you get all the panels done. When I'm fading a difficult head of hair, I might start on panel 2 and 3 first to get them out of the way, because and then I can really focus on the occipital bone and fading over around that. Or, like we said, if they've got divots in the hair or anything difficult going around this bone, I prefer to get that out of the way, fade this, and then I can match panels 1 and 2 and 1 and 4 to that afterwards. Sorry. So we're just going to go through now. I'm going to show you some panel fading and how to connect that all through.